What if Order 66 caused Ahsoka to be sent back in time? Part 4. It took hours for the Jedi to take all their fallen and tend to the injured that had miraculously survived. By the end, it only confirmed that her master, Master Sora Bulk, wasn't among the survivors or the fallen. They had been hesitant to allow Ahsoka to stay in the aftermath and help with the recovery as she was only a Padawan, but relented when she insisted, letting her help search through the rubble, marking bodies for others to drag out. They had set up a makeshift camp just outside the ruins of the compound and had brought the fallen Jedi to the side of it, laying them in neat rows. Ahsoka, taking a break in that camp, gazed upon the destruction, the destroyed buildings and droids, the bodies of dark acolytes that still lay in the rubble, the dozens of rows of forms that lay underneath blankets, and the pile of lightsabers that had accumulated in the center of the camp. Is this what Petrarchy Arena was like? Miraculously, Master Glia had survived, having managed to escape and Count Dooku was distracted with them, but that was the best news. Out of the 131 Jedi that Master Windu had gathered to rescue her, only 24 were left alive, with a few still missing, including her master. Several hundred more Jedi had stopped by, bringing supplies and retrieving the many ships that now no longer had pilots. Later, after confirming that all the bodies were recovered, Grandmaster Yoda ordered that they were to start taking them back to Coruscant, and he personally told Ahsoka to accompany them and wait at the temple for further news of her master. She complied, but the trip was terrible. Finally had a moment to think and knowing that dozens of bodies now lay in the shuttle that she was taking. If it wasn't for her training experience, no, the fact that this was her second life, she knew that she would have been among those bodies. When the shuttle finally landed in the Jedi Temple, she found it silent and somber, though to her relief, Fari came running to her as she left the hangar. Ahsoka had been afraid that Master Windu had brought her and her master, and even though she hadn't seen either of them on Kellox, she had been scared for her. That fear, along with most of the tension and despair that had built up inside her, dissipated in their embrace, and Ahsoka found herself crying on Fari's shoulder. They stayed together for the rest of the day, not having anything to do, and Anakin soon joined them as the High Council called all Padawans, no matter age or skill, back to the temple. Their masters are likely still dealing with the aftermath of the Battle of Kellox, which made the temple unnervingly full of children devoid of adults, save for a few along with the elderly Jedi and temple guards. The next few days passed similarly, and Ahsoka was at the center of attention. All the Padawans and the younglings were curious of what had happened. Some knew the massacre, but most didn't even know of that. They were just confined to the temple without being told a reason. However, everyone seemed to know that Ahsoka had been involved in whatever had happened. Anakin and Fari hoped Ahsoka hide from the attention, but they were also curious, and she didn't mind telling them. During the wait, Ahsoka mostly meditated. She would have preferred to do it under the great tree, but all the attention made her go into more hidden places, though she was able to occasionally meditate in the Room of 1,000 Fountains, which Morai somehow got into. It was there a few days later that Plo Koon found her. He sat beside her and attempted to comfort her by telling her that they had yet to find her master, but they were still optimistic, as they hadn't found his body. Ahsoka was having to tell him the truth. She knew he was alive, but his presence in the Force had grown much darker. Knowing what had previously happened, however much she hated to admit it, she was certain that he had joined hands with Count Dooku. She had spent these last few days trying to come to peace with it, as well as the loss of all those Jedi. The daughter told her she had come back to fix things, to save Jedi. Yet 106 Jedi died around her, and she hadn't been able to do anything about it. What could she really do? She was just a single individual and a child at that. The scene was still etched in her mind, and now going to haunt nightmares alongside Rex's betrayal. Her body had been numb as she gazed upon the scores of dead Jedi littering the ground, their faces blank. She had been surrounded by the dead. People who were supposed to be older and more experienced than her, yet there she stood, alive, while they had breathed their last. And it wasn't even supposed to happen. If her knowledge of the future was as useless as it has been, and things were different from before, there was a point of her coming back. Anger coursed through her, making there were doubts and fears, but she channeled it like Master Bulk had taught her. She didn't want Plo Koon to notice her turmoil of emotions. She had to have faith that Dara knew what she was doing, and that she would be able to meet the dog's expectations. Plo Koon stayed silent a moment longer, as if he was having an eternal debate like her, but he eventually spoke. He told that Master Galea had gone to Alderaan to meet with Senator Organa, but that wasn't the only reason. The Council had decided to investigate the Chosen Prosody more, or at least Anakin's part in it. Master Galea had been taken by Count Dooku while she had been defending Anakin's mother. Count Dooku had been after Shmi Skywalker. Ahsoka was frozen by this, not sure what to make of it. She quickly put this aside, however, instead of using this time to talk with Plo Koon in hope that it would help her calm her emotions, which it eventually did. After their talk, she went back to her quiet, lonely room. She was already missing Master Bulk's presence, something she had tried so hard not to get comfortable with. She had not wanted to replace Anakin as her master, but it had happened. Gazing out of the galactic city skyline, what Plo Koon said came back to her. Why would Count Dooku be after Anakin's mother? Maul's shocking words of Mandalore came to mind next. He had told her that Anakin was the key to everything, that he had long been groomed for his role as Sidious's new apprentice. Were the Sith really after Anakin? But who could be grooming him? She had faith in Anakin and knew that he would never fall to the dark side and join the Sith. Ahsoka didn't want to question this, but forced herself to. Who could it be? There was no one around him that could or would try to get him to join the dark side, so that had to be... Wait. There was one individual that Ahsoka had always felt uncomfortable around. Someone who seemed to pit Anakin against Jedi and aggravate his emotions. Someone who the High Council had been wary of. Chancellor Palpatine. But he couldn't be a Sith. The Jedi would know. At least, she hoped. Even if he wasn't a Sith though, he could still be an agent of them and be targeting Anakin. Either way, she believed Maul when he had said that Sidious was behind everything, always operating in the shadows. Obi-Wan also told the Council had suspected that Darth Sidious had orchestrated the war and played both sides from the beginning. Ahsoka wanted to take action, to go after the Sidious person and do something to not feel useless, but forced herself to think. The future had changed because of the Sith's actions in response to hers. Looking at it like this, it appeared that she had somehow already disrupted their plans. If she could continue to disrupt their plans she knew about or suspected, especially if she could do it without them finding out, then she could effectively beat them by outsmarting them. This had the potential to save many lives, instead of Ahsoka only reacting like she had been thus far. To start this, whether or not Palpatine was involved, asking Anakin to stay away from him or at least be wary of him should suffice in preventing Anakin from being groomed, if that even happened before. She probably couldn't rely on knowing when the war would start, as Jedi shouldn't be arrogant enough to march in the Petrarchy arena after this incident. At least that is again a hope, but she still couldn't change that. However, the clones would be a good bet. It would be their eventual betrayal that would doom the Republic and the Jedi. If she could figure out how they were forced to turn on them, then she could stop it. For this though, she would have to go to Kamino, but without the Kaminoans' knowledge, as she feared they might be involved. This would be near impossible, but she had to try. However, she needed help. She could get Anakin or Farah to come with her, but they wouldn't be able to help much. She needed someone of higher rank, and the one that she still trusted and could help her was Plo Koon. If she requested his help though, then she would have to tell him things that she shouldn't know, and find an explanation for it. Still, she could only do so much by herself as Kellogg's had demonstrated, so she needed help if she truly wanted to change the future. After a sleepless night, just as the sun's rays began glistening off the galactic city skyline, she went in search of Plo Koon before he could leave the temple. She found him on his way to the hangar bay, and after a moment's hesitation, she called out to him and asked if they could speak in private. He told her they always had time for her before leading her into a room. Ahsoka wasn't sure if she was ready to tell him everything, so instead, she slowly told him of the clone army, their eventual betrayal, and how she wanted to stop it. Plo Koon was silent for a moment before telling her that he and Grandmaster Yoda had sensed a change in her, and he hoped that she would tell them about it sometime. But he would trust her for now. Most Jedi could tell that something was off, and he hoped that Ahsoka would have some pieces to this puzzle. He asked what her plan was, to which she told him that she needed to sneak into the Kamino facility, find a clone, and run a test on him. She just needed someone to distract them while she did this. Plo Koon nodded, looking thoughtful, then asked if she would be fine to bring more Jedi. At Ahsoka's hesitation, he reassured that it wouldn't be anyone she didn't know, saying that he had Farah and her master in mind as they were both in the temple. Ahsoka too quickly agreed, only thinking of Farah's opinion afterwards, so she promptly added that only if Farah agreed. Plo Koon just chuckled, telling her that he wouldn't have it any other way, and that she should go find Farah and ask, while he got Night Dal and they would meet in the hangar bay. Ahsoka thanked him before running off to find Farah. She had been tempted to ask if Anakin could come as well. From her past experience, she knew that he wasn't ideal for stealth missions. Finding Farah wasn't too hard. A force bond of sorts had formed between them, and they could sense each other, like master and apprentice bond. Ahsoka attempted not to tell her about this mission and just go meet Plo Koon. She knew that Farah would want to come, but Ahsoka didn't want to put her in danger. However, she knew what it was like to be overprotected, and she didn't want to do that to Farah. She was relieved to find Farah alone in her room, and upon entering, she blurted out that she knew bits of the future. She had wanted to tell her for some time now, but had always held back. Her ordeal was hard for even her to believe, and she had experienced it. She didn't want to strain their friendship by claiming such an absurd thing. But on the way here, she had ended up talking herself into it, and wanted to tell her before she backed out again. She didn't say the whole truth though, instead making it sound like she had extremely accurate force visions. Farah was taken aback for a second before bombarding Ahsoka with questions, asking her if she had seen anything about her, or someone sneaking out of the temple, and many more such questions. It left Ahsoka speechless until she managed to calm Farah down, relieved with her acceptance, saying she didn't know anything that detailed, but was here to ask if she wanted help her with something. Before Ahsoka could even explain, Farah agreed, and Ahsoka had to calm her down again before explaining the mission. It was like this was her first exciting mission and her first experience bending the rules. On the way to the hangar bay, Ahsoka asked Farah to pay attention to their bond while on Kamino. If she sensed them getting close, then she needed to alert Ahsoka using the bond. Farah was confused about what this meant, so Ahsoka demonstrated, sending some of her emotions she now felt to Farah through the bond. Farah faltered, a surprised look crossing her face, before it was replaced by a wild smile and gleaming eyes full of mischief. She eagerly asked Ahsoka how she did it, and it wasn't long before Farah sharing her excitement and joy with Ahsoka. They arrived in the hangar bay to find the two Keldors conversing by a shuttle. They greeted each other once they got close. Night Dal especially warmed to Farah, and Ahsoka felt the happiness and relief from Farah upon talking with her master. They boarded the shuttle and Plo Koon took the controls, finding the order before he stepped back, letting Ahsoka take over. She used a Krillin run hyperspace route to get closer, making jumps to the moon of Rishi. From there, she plugged in the hyperspace coordinates to Kamino, that Anakin had made her memorized. As soon as she jumped to the shuttle, she turned back to the three Jedi that were watching her, their gaze a mix of both curiosity and wonder, and some concern. She told them that she would hide on the ship while the Kaminoans greeted them, then sneak into the facility while they were talking and being given a tour, and she hoped to be back on the shuttle before they finished. Night Dal looked at Plo Koon, and he nodded, telling her to listen to Ahsoka. Turned back to the controls, they had arrived over Kamino, and Ahsoka piloted the shuttle down to Tapoka City, landing on one of the closest landing pads to the facility that she knew of. The weather, thankfully, was terrible per usual, but it would help Ahsoka sneak across the exposed walkways. Once landed, as predicted, they didn't have to wait long before Kaminoans came out to greet them. Plo Koon led the three Jedi off the ship, casting one last glance towards Ahsoka before doing so, and greeted them. They were escorted into the facility, and Ahsoka waited a moment long before following them. She made her way through the white hallways, having to take it slow to avoid everyone, but she knew where she was going. She finally made it to the barracks where the clones were living and observed for a minute, making sure they weren't being observed and trying to find a clone to talk to. Only clones appeared to be in the area, but they all looked alike, albeit from minor variations of hair and eye color. She had hoped to find one that she had known, like Rex, but she ended up looking for an outlier, sneaking up to a clone that was alone by the wall. When she got to him, she told him that he needed to come with her. He looked up, a confused look on his face upon seeing her, but shrugged and stood, following her out of the barracks. She led him to a more isolated area before asking his name, then correcting himself quickly to his number. He was CT-1226. She then told him that she needed his help, telling him that she feared the Kaminoans had done something to the clone to make them turn on the Republic. This got his attention, as she knew it would. They had been raised being told that they were to fight for the Republic and defend it with their lives. He asked her what she needed, and she told him that knowing the Kaminoans, they had done something to their brain, so she wanted to medically scan him. He agreed, and followed her to where the medical equipment was. They entered a room and he lay on the table in the center. She thanked him and promised that she wouldn't do anything that would harm him. He just chuckled as he was put to sleep and the scan began. Ahsoka at first patiently waited while it scanned, but as it started taking longer than she anticipated, she started getting nervous. It was almost to the point where she didn't notice that some of that nervousness wasn't from her, but from the Force-born Offee. It was the odd discomfort that came with it that alerted Ahsoka, and she realized that it was a warning that she had asked Offee to give her. But the medical scanners still weren't picking up anything. That couldn't be. There had to be something. Ahsoka placed her hands on the trooper's head out of desperation and started murmuring, "I am one with the Force, and the Force is with me. I am one with the Force, and the Force is with me." Voices could soon be heard in the hallway, but finally the scanner chirped, notifying her that it had found something. Subconsciously, she pressed the button to begin the extraction of whatever it was, and prayed that she wasn't killing the trooper by doing this. The extraction felt like it took ages, but soon completed, and Ahsoka only caught a glimpse of what looked to be a tumor before she stuffed it in her pocket. Checking Trooper's vitals, she saw that he was stable and had a back patch had already been placed on his head. Conversation outside the door reached her, and she desperately used the fear that was racing through her to lift the Trooper with the Force in the shadows of the ceiling, before jumping up to join him. The door stood open a moment later, and in walked Lama Su, who seemed to be boasting of his medical and cloning expertise. He paused as he walked into the room, taking a look around. Ahsoka strained to focus on keeping the Trooper suspended in the air with the Force as well as holding on herself, as Lama Su walked under her. He walked over to the medical equipment, took a look around once again, before powering it off and continuing his conversation with the three Jedi. Ahsoka was exhausted by the time they left, but so gently lowered the Trooper back to the table before jumping down herself. She was grateful that he hadn't woken up while in midair, but now she needed to wake up so she could get back to the shuttle. He did soon wake, and Ahsoka promptly asked him how he felt. He responded, telling her that he was groggy but felt alright. He then asked her if she found anything, to which she pulled out the tumor-looking thing. She told him that she wasn't sure what it was, but she was certain that it was supposed to be in his head. She asked him how he was going to have the back to patch, to which he told her to let him worry about that. Ahsoka thanked him for his participation before saying goodbye and wishing him well, and that she hoped to see him again. Sitting back to the shuttle wasn't as bad as coming in, though the weather had cleared a bit. Ahsoka waited there for another hour before she felt Offee approaching, and the three Jedi soon joined her. They were silent as Plo Koon took the controls and piloted them off Kamino, setting course for Coruscant. Only when they were in hyperspace did they speak, starting with Plo Koon, asking if she had found anything. Ahsoka showed him the tumor-looking thing. He nodded, before saying that they had a lot to tell the council when they got back. He and Nightdog conversed from there, while she and Offee caught each other up on their sides of the story. The tour mostly sounded like what Obi-Wan had told her, though they encountered several more bounty hunters and Mandalorians. The trip back home seemed to take longer, but once they landed in the hangar in the Jedi Temple, Plo Koon escorted them to halls of healing, telling Ahsoka they had summoned all the members of the High Council for a meeting, but first wanted to know what she had found. This got Ahsoka nervous, but she had realized that she should tell them, as she had told Plo Koon, or the faith might just remain the same. Once in the halls of healing, Ahsoka showed the tumors to the head healer, and after some examination, they told him that it appeared to be an organic control chip, one made to force the individual to do something, whether willingly or not. Plo Koon asked if they knew what was meant to force the individual to do, to which they told him that there was a variety of words on the chip, over 150, though it appeared the control chip wouldn't activate for some of them. They needed to analyze it further to determine exactly what was going on, but they could look at the orders if they wanted to. Ahsoka rushed through the columns before they could even finish speaking and started scrolling through the orders. None of them matched what had happened, and all of them seemed legit. Her scrolling became faster, and again desperate to find something, but a gentle hand on her shoulder made her stop. She looked up to Plo Koon before looking back down at the console, and stilled. The console stopped on an order whose description brought back flashes from her nightmares. Order 66. An order to force the clones to kill Jedi. Was that what had happened? The clones didn't turn on the Republic, just the Jedi? She had no way to know for sure, but she had a sinking feeling that it was what had happened. Plo Koon read the order over her shoulder, having seen her pause, but commented that it didn't seem too bad. It would be good if any Jedi fell to the dark side, but still unnerved him that it was without the Council's permission. But he didn't know what had happened. Ahsoka had to tell him and the Council. They were the ones that could bring about the most change in the future, that could save the most Jedi, both from being killed and falling to the dark side, like Master Bulk. She looked at Plo Koon, saying she was ready to tell them what had happened to her. He nodded, worry now spreading on his face, saying that if she was sure, then the Council should have gathered by now. He walked with her to the High Council chamber. Once there, he explained what he had seen at Kamino, and now Ahsoka led him there before he took his seat, leaving Ahsoka alone in the center of the room. It took a moment for her to fully gain the courage, but thankfully, the Council seemed patient. When she began though, saying that she had come back from the future, she couldn't stop, the crushing burn of it now being released like a dam bursting. She told them from how the war started all the way to the final days before she and thousands of Jedi were killed. She left out most of the personal details, instead of emphasizing important events and decisions. When she finished, the Council was silent for a long moment. Mundi was the first to speak though, questioning if what she said was true. Plo Koon stood up for her, saying not only Kamino, but also her changed presence and skill. They argued among themselves, leaving Ahsoka silently stand in the middle, though they occasionally asked her something, but she began to grow disheartened. So I wasn't sure how long it went on before someone interrupted them. It was a head healer from the Halls of Healing. They had finished their analysis of the control chip, so I could have forgotten to mention it, but Plo Koon filled them in, before letting the healer tell them what he had found. The healer told them that the chip could and would take control of whoever was inside of, and they would be helplessly bound to the order for days or even weeks afterwards, unable to think or act for themselves. The orders that were on the chip, though at first glance appeared impressive and legit, were all fake. Some of those orders could trigger, in theory, though with a small chance. The only order that was tied to the control of the chip was Order 66, the execution of Jedi officers by order of the Chancellor.